Hi everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I am not sure if I'm going to be able to get this done in time to have it up, but I think I can. If I did, happy Resurrection Sunday. If not, I hope you had a great one. um, we are continuing the idea of media that people don't talk about. I'm not going to stay there forever, but I have some things that I do want to talk about. And I thought I would go ahead and move into broadening this into instead of one specific like movie, book, whatever. We're going to talk about some pretty cool things from the 1990s that I don't think anybody has talked about, at least in a long time. So I want to talk about the Learning Channel. Does anybody remember this? That was the jam back in the day. That was where, like, the shows were, in my opinion. You had PBS, which was great. We had Mr. Rogers, we had Barney, we had that. Absolutely. And let me know if you want me to talk more about Mr. Rogers. I won't be able to wear makeup when I do that because I'm gonna cry. But let me know if you want me to talk about my feelings about Mr. Rogers because there's a lot there. And it may come up in a later video because something very interesting happened for me and can't wait to talk about it. But let's move on. So before we had Honey Boo Boo, let's not go there. We had the Learning Channel. It was not TLC. It was not this. It was the Learning Channel. And we had great shows. Two of my favorite things were on there when I was a toddler. And I thought I would bring up a couple of them and just kind of talk about like the difference. So I have the information from like Wikipedia on here. It was birthed in the 1980s and it was educational channel for everybody, focusing on children in the morning period. So that morning block was a lot of kids shows. It was phased out in the 1990s, the late 1990s. So like at the end of the 90s into the 2000s when we started to have like reality TV and things like that. Any of us who were born before like 1997-ish, I guess would be the cutoff. Because any later than that, you wouldn't remember because you would not be aware. Those of us who were born from like I'll say, yeah, the cutoff was like 1997. I was born in 91, so I can remember the transitions between programming for a lot of different channels, things that were very like, I don't know how you would put it, like, a lot of people say like analog. It was very like old fashioned, if you will, and it was great, honestly, but then it started to turn more toward the um, reality TV, and you had all kinds of crazy stuff going on. You had MTV going from a music video channel to being, all these other random things and so much more. But focusing on the Learning Channel. So, I mean, we had things like Zoobilee Zoo, we had Professor Iris, Under the Umbrella Tree. These shows were kind of like things that a lot of people will say like it felt like a fever dream because I didn't remember where it was, but I remember seeing it. I know I can say that for Zoobilee Zoo because it was an old show, so I was not born until after it was like already done. But they did put episodes that were in syndication on when I was little, like very little, like I was a baby. But I remember like the visual of it, and I remember saying to my Gen X brother and sister, like, "Do you remember this show? It was these people, and they had like animal masks or something, and they were like, I don't know what you're talking about. And finally, my sister, who's the eldest, she would have been around the longest for that, and she was like, I think I know what you're talking about. And she sent me a clip, and I was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And she was like, yeah, you might remember because we did have it on, but you were really, really little. Like, you were barely a year old. And I was like, yeah, it's like not, I don't remember I didn't remember what it was. I didn't remember any of it. I just remember that visual. And, so that one I can say, like, that kind of is on the vaguer side of my memory. But let me talk to you a minute about these other shows, because we had Professor Iris. That show, my mom in particular, she said, like, that was your day was focused around that show. You would ask for it all the time, and how, like, I would sit there and just stare at the television watching this random show that was on the Learning Channel in the morning. Like, I would eat my eggs and I would watch, and like, I do remember it. And also Under the Umbrella Tree, like, I remember really loving that when I was very little. They were very much geared toward like toddlers, so like early learning stages. So my mom used them as a homeschooler. She used them for like supplemental education. So that TV time was broken up with reading or, um, teaching numbers, whatever needed to be done at the time. And so this channel definitely brought that for those of us who were looking for that supplemental education. And also, it was something that was kind of breaking it up from like the Disney Channel, the Nickelodeon, those things that were kind of like, I guess now they would call it brain rot. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I watched those too. Like, let's all be honest, we all watched like Rugrats sometimes. And, like, I loved Winnie the Pooh, I loved Madeline, I loved all these like random shows. And like, those are fine, and there's nothing wrong with having a little fun. I think every kid should have a fun show. Every kid should have a show that like they can just sit down and watch and not like kind of turn their brain off, if you will. Personally, I don't agree with things like SpongeBob and things like that because it is way too brain rot. But what I mean by turn your brain off is like things that are just simple shows that just don't really have much to do with all of it. Just like simple, fun little shows. Maybe a little skit show. I used to love watching, I know it was like much later in my life, but I used to love watching The Amanda Show because it was just so silly. And like things like that. That's fine. But what the Learning Channel did was it, along with its company that owned it, the Discovery Company, if you will, they really gave such rich content. There were so many different things that from those different channels, Discovery Channel, Animal Planet, the Learning Channel, like those channels were very helpful. Obviously we had PBS. Everybody had public broadcasting, of course, but there was just something different about these. I can remember watching Discovery Kids growing up all the time. Like, I stayed on that channel. So, like, there were things that came out of that I think were so important. Now let's also not shy away from the fact that those of us who are older, we probably did watch things on TLC later. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about its downfall. During that late 90s, early 2000s peak of, or beginning of, reality TV, it changed entertainment in general. We had social media coming out. We had so many more just random entertainment things. Even to this day, we have I don't even know, some of these shows. Like, I think it was this morning. I saw a post that I made that they had made a reality competition show out of the game of tag. What? Things like that. We had, those types of things. And it just changed the way that TV programs were accepted. And then, like I said, the creation of things like SpongeBob and The Fairly Odd Parents later on, Jimmy Neutron later on after that, like just all the just dumb kid shows. And it just got worse and worse. To this day, I can say I don't understand why we have these kid shows that they're, we make fun of things like that are, the counting songs, and but like that's what we grew up on, and they're helpful. And so that's why those of us who are my age group, who are parents, we're picking those things because we want them to learn something. We don't want them to just sit there staring at the screen. You know, they say don't let the TV be the babysitter, and I agree with that, and I'm fully in support of that. It's just sometimes you do need a little something extra to help pull them in. And, now it's a lot harder because everything is so fast, so hyper fast. Just TikTok, Instagram, you have YouTube Kids, you have all these things that are just like 30-second slots, 15-second slots. And we're losing that spark that we had. And I think that's really where it started. We have some great shows. Like, I love American Idol. Love American Idol to this day. Even when I was little, I loved it, but I love it today. I watch it every single possible second that I can. I'm making sure that I know, like, who made it, who didn't, who is my favorite contestant. Am I following them? Am I gonna listen to their music? So much. And I mean, there's good things that came out of the reality TV show Boom. But it's so sad to see that it really dwindled after my generation. And I feel like there's such a significance and such a special thing that a lot of people don't talk about, and they don't acknowledge, and they don't respect about my generation, that we are the last generation that have that in us. And I could go into more, but I want to save some of that, like I said, for another video that I'm going to be doing. I have a lot to say. That one might be a little longer than I thought it was going to be, but but let's go into what do we do? What can we do? Find the clips on YouTube, share them with your young acquaintances, those that you know and that are in your life who are younger than you. I remember just back in January when my one little nephew turned 13 this year, and that's just like, wow, this is crazy. But I sat with my youngest niece and watched Madeline with her for, I'm pretty sure, the first time, and she loved it. She asked me, what shows did you watch when you were my age? And I said, let me show you. And she loved it. She said, "Mommy, mommy," to my sister, "you need to find this." And I told her, maybe, check it out, see if you can find it, because she really liked it. And it's things like that that just make my day, because I get to share that with them, and it's like carrying on that legacy and that heart and that spirit that, you know, it's educational, but it's not something that has to be like difficult to understand as a child or things like that. Um, it's special. It's just very special. Um, and I think too, the other thing that makes it so surreal is we did grow up through that transition. We did go from watching those shows every morning as toddlers and into our, elementary school years. And then all of a sudden, as we were going into middle school, it almost changed with us and grew with us. And there's a bittersweet feeling in that, because as much as they were changing, we were changing. And those of us who maybe weren't as much into it, maybe didn't watch it all the time, but we still felt that change. And we still felt that growing up and that finality of you can't always go back. And I don't mean to sound super sentimental, but it just, sometimes I look back on that time and I'm just like, what a time. What a time. And I look at now and I think, it's so different. Life is so different. It's so heavy, and sometimes we crave the lightness. And that's why we need to keep these videos on YouTube alive. We need to find them. We need to share them. We need to keep them in rotation. We need to find the DVDs. We need to continue to, keep those memories, because they're important and they're special and they're things that we can share with others. And it made us who we are, and it helped us to be the way that we are. Those of us who are good people and who are, that last of a dying breed, that's why it helped. It did help. It wasn't the only thing, but it was something. And with that being said, I think that we, as that conglomerate, we can carry that on and carry that message and help people. And I think it's going to be something that is a part of all of the good in the world, and something that we should be grateful for. I don't have much else to say. I will try to come back and pick up and continue. And I'm here to do these different videos because I want to just create a space where this kind of stuff can be shared, and it's not for any reason other than it's just something that I feel led to do. And if you guys are interested, you might want to subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and also comment below if you remember any of these shows or remember the Learning Channel, not TLC. Were you born in the era of that? Were you older? Were you maybe too young to remember? Now you want to know more. There's so much, and I'm not necessarily a deep dive channel. I don't really have a lot of the time to explore or things like that. But I do really want to bring these things to attention, and I also want to give you guys something interesting. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Any reviews that I do will be posted here. I was going to do a review on this one thing that I got, but it wasn't that exciting, so I decided to save any review videos for like the more exciting things that I am hoping, praying to have coming up soon. It just depends on how everything works out with my money and everything. And just please, please continue to support, subscribe, like, share, comment. Please comment because I don't get a lot of comments and it's nice. It's nice to see. And also, like, when you comment and like and things, it shows the algorithm, hey, these people might like this video. And it will share. And I know for me, suggested videos, absolutely. Like, I am a big suggested video watcher. Like, when things pop up for me, I click in, and a lot of the subscriptions I have now are from just like, oh, hey, let me check out this video. Oh, well, I like this person. I'm going to subscribe. So maybe I'm one of those people for you. I don't know. I hope so. And turn on post notifications because it'll tell you when I upload so that you can see a video right away. You don't have to miss it. And make sure that you tune in to my next video. Bye.